Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of That Saints podcast. It's October now and the nights are dark. This is the first dark night I think we've been recording. Seems a long time since April, a long season. Season's over now. Who's with us tonight? Well, the usual crowd are in. Steve Orford, good evening Steve.
Good evening.
Gaz Tinsley's with us.
Good evening.
And Adi O'Sullivan's with us tonight. Shifts allowing.
Yes, indeed. Good evening. Yeah, good to be here.
And Steve Beach, as usual, on the buttons. Thanks very much, Steve. Now, October. Never thought we'd get through to this when we were crashing over all the games of the season. We're here, end of season, and no pots for us, apart from the early one in the season. Well, we'll analyse that, but first of all, we'll pick up where we were from last month, and we'll have a brief chat about the end of season for the league. We finished equal top, which was
that's one way of putting
it. Equal top, but out of the top two positions. That was a bit unlucky, really, from where we were. I thought. Thoughts on that? Yeah, I thought we were unlucky.
I think actually that's one of the things that killed us.
Yeah.
Finishing outside that top two.
Yeah.
Because it meant we had to play an extra round at home to Warrington.
Yeah.
And then go to Catalan. It was always going to be difficult to go over there and get a win to get to the grand final. So if we'd got the top two spot, we'd have had that week off.
A cushion, yeah.
When we played Warrington, we'd have had that week off. Yeah. And then we'd have got a home semi-final, which would have given us, I think, a much better chance.
Yeah.
If it's still been Catalan, you'd back us more at home, I think, to give them a game than away.
Yeah.
Although we did give them a good game, it was a really close game, but it's always going to be a tough task.
I think I'd back us against anybody at home, and we did lose to Catalan at home, but it was a narrow loss that we should have probably won.
2 points, in July.
It was unfortunate to think that where we were 6 weeks after coming back from Sydney, when we're in like 8th spot, and miles behind everybody, and to think that we managed to pull it back, but we all said all season about the lack of attack, and who would have thought that the thing that would cost Saints finishing top would be a lack of attack.
Yeah.
You know, as great as our defence has been in the last 3 years, our attack has been. I don't think we've played poor. We played well all season. I think we played poor most of the season.
Yeah.
Our outstanding defence got us the wins, but ultimately it cost us. But again, at the start of the season, if you'd have said to me, right, you can have the World Club Challenge in Sydney, but you'll lose 2 semi-finals, will you take that? I'd have probably said, you know what, give me that win in Sydney. It's just the fact that between the 2 semi-finals, we were literally 20 seconds away from getting to 2 finals. Between the Challenge Cup and Catalan away, we was like a bug's nudger off getting to 2 finals.
We've just fallen short on all fronts this
and then
year,
points difference.
Yeah.
And as much as it feels like a bit of a disaster of a season, out of the top 3 teams in that division, we were way off what Wigan and Catalan had produced all season, and we still nearly overtook them.
Yeah.
It's just we've got all these wonderful pieces, but somehow they just don't seem to sit perfectly well together this year for whatever going forward. Defence,
it's a lack of pace for me. Is the reason why the attack's no good. It's a lack of pace in the backs.
Can't argue with that, Steve. I mean, at one point this season it was clicking and we were scoring tries from our own half, but it wasn't like one man lightning pace. It was team moves. I mean, some of the moves we were putting on down that right hand side at one point this season, 4, 5, 6 passes over the space of 50 yards was incredible. But ultimately, you're probably right there, Steve, that our
too much
pace cost us.
Creative burden on Wellesby as well, I think.
Maybe we'll come to that. A lot of changes as well. A lot of suspensions and early on and injuries didn't help, I suppose. And on that basis, it's actually looking back, it's not a bad effort.
It's a great effort.
Not a bad effort.
It's
really,
a great effort. It's just when we used to get
success,
and we were so close to that success.
Yeah. Okay, so we had the first eliminator match against the Warrington Wolves at home. Saints 16, Warrington 8. I think most people would have expected this result. I think Warrington had a very mixed season, and I think we're on the back of 7 straight or 8 straight wins at that point. Bit close in the end, but a try from Lewis Dodd in the first half after we'd bombed about 3 chances just gave us a small interval lead. I thought we'd come out and wrap that up, but unfortunately Crouch Wrench. Why does it call him Crouch? Wrench. Connor Wrench. Crench, yeah. Call him Crench. Popped over in the early in the second half, and it was game on again. And we seemed to struggle a bit till Tommy went on.
And we spanked them. And it ended up being that close.
Yeah. Well, there is that. They'd never really had many chances.
Is that again down to our lack of
finishing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
ruthlessness.
That's
that.
Well, you mentioned pace before, and the two sides that trouble us most, as in, for my mind, are Warrington and Wigan because of that lights out speed that they've got. Whenever we play Warrington, I mean, we go all the games, all of us. Whenever we play Wyatt, you are dreading them making a break. Like they did when we went to Warrington and they had that move down. As soon as they break our line, because we know we have got nobody that can catch. Their top 2-3 quickest players are quicker than everybody.
Not many could catch Duffy or Ashton.
That's true, but it's not even you've not even a chance, and it's a shame. I mean, we take anyone on with a forward battle. I strongly believe that, and we've got an abundance of forwards, but our structures have got to be 100% perfect if we're going to win games against teams with speed. It's like Warrington beat Catalan 3 times.
Yeah,
because of speed, pace and speed. Wigan have beat Catalan comfortably this season. I mean, they battered them in Catalan.
34-0, wasn't it? Something, yeah.
Speed.
Yeah.
Speed and pace.
Yeah.
Whereas we can't turn Catalan because as big and powerful as our pack is, theirs is an equal match and they've got that little bit of extra speed than us.
Yeah.
Tom Johnson.
Yeah. So
that night was a fear because it was Warrington.
Yeah. There was always that.
They were 6, but they're not really 6. They were the one nobody would have wanted.
They can always beat us, can't they?
I'd much rather have had OKR or Lee. In fact, I'd love to have had Lee. And well done, OKR. But that night, it was fear. Although we dominated that, it's coming back to me now. How many chances we blew in that first half, just not being able to.
We could have been
just
outside.
being useless 10 yards from line with that poor kicking game we've had all year. What's the game yesterday? The Tonga kid kicks it for a dropout, and then it comes out, and the next set of 6 he puts it through and they score over that line. 2 fantastic kicks running. We've not put 2 decent kicks together all year, and it's just so frustrating. And you watch me and Ed yesterday watching Harry Smith kicking game, completely different level to anything we've got.
We said that at the match, didn't we?
Unbelievable.
We said that sat there at the match.
Miles better than anything that we've had all year, and so that night was, and then when Connor Wrench went flying down that, it was nervous. It was a nervous.
It wasn't a comfortable game, was it?
But we did what we're good at, and we just ground it out, didn't we?
Yeah. So that left us with an away trip to Catalan, which I think we're all rolling our eyes at that point. And it kind of it didn't turn out.
There's nothing in them, is there? There's
nothing in
top 3
them,
clubs. There's nothing in them. You've all said we've come from giving them a massive start to getting one decent result away from winning league to coming first.
Not even a decent result, guys. It's up to like seconds away.
First.
Well,
it was even 8 minutes to go on that night. We were there because one was behind Lee and the other one was only just beating. Wigan was only just beating Lee, weren't they? And then there's that disputed try.
Well, the game finished 12-6, but that wasn't really the story because we probably should have won that, even how we'd played that night.
Do you know what goals we were with that?
We were 2-0 down at half time, then 6-2 up after 50 minutes.
So what goals we were with, Graham, is that in that first half, I don't know about you, men, but in the first half at Catalan, I didn't think they ever looked like scoring. No. We dominated that match in every aspect, and
we got a big fat 0 as well, didn't we? So,
and then, and we dominated it, and everything about our play, our ruck speed, both in attack and defence, was great. And then in the second half, there seemed to be a complete change of mentality, and as soon as that second half started, it was like we were obsessed with slowing down the ruck, lying on in the tackle, penalty after penalty after penalty, and it was ridiculous because we didn't need to change anything from that first half.
No.
And it was even once we got that first try, it then went even more along the lines of Let's not lose.
Yeah, we hold what we've got.
Don't get beat. Let's just stop them scoring, which we pretty much did for, well, into the last second. But
that brings me to the thing that absolutely killed me.
We was in charge of that match.
Yeah.
We was bossing that match, and then at half time the line on, and I hate to say it because I think George Delaney's had a great season, but when Delaney and Mbai came on, it was almost as if they were sent on with an instruction of slow it down, and the penalties we give away between them two.
On that theme, Matty Lees, just before they scored, gets himself sin-binned because he's lying on the attacker for about a week and a half.
And I think
I
think every Saints fan on the planet was screaming at it.
No, pardon me. Matty Lees is still alive.
This just in.
Just in.
Even Morgan Knowles couldn't get out of it. He was trapping him and all.
Yeah.
I was saying to Graham,
that was the most ludicrous
farcical.
thing.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Brain explosion in the
I
front.
did different match, but Matty Lees was doing that again yesterday. The England match.
Yesterday.
Yeah, he was doing it again for it. But that.
Do you think that's an instruction that the coach tells them to do that and he just does it at the wrong place where he just pops 2 points over? Or do you think it's some other reason?
Remember, like a while ago, we had this thing with Matty Lees where he was over aggressive, over keen.
Yeah.
I think he just tries to carry out his instructions to 1,000,000%, but is a little bit too enthusiastic, shall we say? And I wouldn't want to get that out of his game, but somehow, and I think it is carrying out instructions because the whole team were doing it in the second half. George Delaney, I've never seen him lying on all season, and then in that game, he's 3 times he's penalised for it.
But I think Lees in particular lacks a little bit of game intelligence. He just, doesn't know when to draw a line and.
In that particular place at that moment in time was
the question I thought I was thinking when that happened, apart from screaming at the TV at the time, was Roby on the pitch or off the pitch? Because we seemed to lose a bit of composure.
No, he
in
went
that game.
like just about 4 or 5 minutes into the second half. He upped him for Mbai, and we didn't see him again.
Yeah, and I think our composure went a little bit, maybe some direction, and that we had was a period in that game where there were 3 or 4 penalties on the bounce, and then we were on their 10-yard line, and we ended up giving a penalty away and 2 points for them for Kieran. And I think that might have brought it back to 6-6 or 4-6, and they were back in the game. And then the lying on and the slowing down, and it puzzled me. It must be instruction. They don't do it on purpose because our games we want to fast play the ball. Don't
what I
we?
will say on the flip side of all this is I would have had 0 arguments if Matauti had been red carded. Matauti should have got sent off.
He should have been.
Yeah.
And just as we thought he'd eradicated it from his game, because that second when he came in with that swinging arm, there can be
not for the initial tackle, but on the ground. He swung the arm, hit him in the head. It's a red card all day.
Was that in the first half? That as well.
It was.
It was.
So I think we got away with one there.
I think we'd like to. I would have loved to have blamed Kendall, but you can't because I don't think he got anything wrong.
No,
but my big issue was the team. I was not happy.
I know what you're going to say.
I wasn't happy when we played Warrington.
Yeah.
When he put Opawati at centre and not Earl. I put that down to injury, but then he sticks Earl in the reserves at weekend, and then in the biggest game of the year, we chose rather than to try and win to stop Catalan winning by picking a better defensive player. I don't know how you could possibly not pick Conrad Earl in that game. Because we've only
when
lost,
your season's on the line.
We've lost with a try at last second. In fact, the whistle's gone. Opawati's not going to score you anything. I mean, I know ironically he did, but you know what I mean. Conrad in that game, surely you try and win as against not lose, and that's been sneaking into. I think, but supports what the guys have been saying. Really, I think that's been sneaking into our game at the back end of the year. Stop them. We're saying tellings, beat them, win with 20, play some stuff. You got a fantastic strike centre there. Okay, he's not the greatest defensively, but he might get 3 tries. You only need to get 1 that night and we win. So I thought I was really not happy about that. I just think that Catalan game, Conrad Earl should have played.
Another little frustration for the same reasons is that we lose so much of Jack Wellesby, I think, playing at full back, because the one try we did score was Jack Wellesby making it. And the other thing that Jack's got that no one else in our team can do is that short kicking game. His short kicking game is the best we've got. It might not be the best there is, but it's the best we've got. Yeah. He's the only one. You very rarely see Wellesby put a bomb up. It's little dinks into the in goal. It's trying to push for a dropout or little knock on. And then the other thing as well in that match is, was it the first half? We dropped the ball twice on the first tackle on their 10-yard line.
Yeah.
First tackle on their 10-yard line, we dropped the ball.
We made a lot of
deserve
mistakes
to win it.
Yeah.
We didn't. Likewise, we didn't deserve to finish top, but we didn't in 2014, did we? But
I mean, they weren't anything special on that night. Catalan.
no, both
they just
teams
did
were
a
awful.
job.
Both teams were poor. Really,
And we'd have probably done a better job at final. Because they were dreadful at final.
Come to Steve. You've often over the years we've been doing this, Steve, talked about wolf ball and the big thing is defence wins your matches, but attack can lose your matches if your attack's not good enough.
If your attack's not there, you're not ruthless, you don't take chances, you don't create chances, which we don't, then you won't win games, even if you are defensively really good.
We were ruthless under Wolf.
The difference under Wolf is that we were ruthless and we had a bit more pace about us with Regan Grace and people like that, and a fit Lewis Dodd, essentially, as well. Yeah. Now we've got no pace, no guile, and we just defend. We're very good at defending, but it's not going to be enough against the best teams.
I think I've never seen, I can't remember seeing Tommy have a run of so many poor matches on the bounce. Tommy Makinson just see, but they've got a lot of miles in the legs. Johnny, Percy, Tommy Makinson, a lot of miles.
Another one whose body's a bit battered.
Yeah, and like you say, under Wolf, all those lads were 2 years younger, weren't they? And like you say,
perhaps we've just come to the end of a natural cycle, and it's not actually Wellens' fault, and it would have happened under Wolf.
Well, possibly.
There's every chance of that.
Yeah,
there's every chance of that.
But we've not gone down swinging, have we?
Yeah,
Wolf,
that's a
Wolf
point.
probably played Conley to be fair. Yeah. Although he didn't play yesterday, not if he's injured, is he?
He was there.
He was 18th man yesterday, I think, wasn't he?
He was warming up, yeah. But that it was
just not sticking then.
No.
Frustrating, disappointing, but I don't like this. I mean, under Wolf, we've been playing percentage rugby since Justin Holbrook left, and it's that percentage rugby is boring. Percentage rugby is like Wigan of the 80s and 90s, but they did it perfectly well. Dull as ditch water, but you can't beat it. If you do it and you do it right, it can't be beat.
At some point, teams are going to catch you up in that field, and we've been caught up, certainly, I think, by Wigan and Catalan this year.
I think the disruptions through injury and suspension, and like you said, we ended up so far behind early doors in the season. Yeah. But when we did get a grip of everyone, these are games that we should have won. But Catalan, I said it before the Catalan match, and I didn't change my mind after the match, that Catalan wouldn't beat Saints, Saints would beat Saints. Yeah. And for me, that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and over the season we've shot ourselves in the foot too many times. I think the discipline hasn't been good, and it squeezed out in that semi-final, didn't it? The discipline went to pot.
Been the problem all season, though, to be fair, Graham. We've had that many bans.
Yeah.
Players,
but there's no
late hits and what have you.
Yeah,
it's a real problem.
But unfortunately, look at Wigan. They've been really good at this. Matty Peters sorted that out. That they were as bad as us, if not worse.
They were the dirtiest team in all of sports for years.
Yeah, and they've suddenly turned to. Well, they've suddenly turned into.
They're not angels now.
They're not angels.
Cleaned it up.
They've cleaned it right up, and it's affected their season.
We had that little patch in that run of matches just before leading up to the Catalan match. We had a little period, and I don't know if it was just wishful thinking or if it's an actual thing, because I know nothing about coaching and all the rest of it, but we had a little spell where Laurent Frenier was back in France and Matty Smith took over as assistant coach, and we played some nice rugby. We played some good. That was when we were shifting it out, and we were going the length of the field, and I'm not talking Percy going 50, 60, 70 metres. It was like some of those short side passing moves, 3 or 4 passes in a quarter of the width of the pitch.
Yeah.
And that, as I remember, seemed to coincide with Matty Smith being on the coaching bench.
The only evidence we've got on Fresidou is when you hear him do the interviews when the TV games, every single time he talks about playing the long game and the grind and all this sort of arm wrestle, and you just think, this is not
That's
Saints.
not Saints, no.
This is not what you're supposed to be here for.
I do cringe when I hear that, to be fair.
Not just Saints, Steve. That's not what I watch rugby league for.
Me neither.
That's not what I want to watch rugby league for.
But if the focus is so much on that, it's no wonder we're not beating teams.
Yeah, well, certainly the top teams
'Cause you-
are able. We look fairly at the moment. We look fairly easy to defend against.
We are, yeah, because there's no guile or creativity or pace in the team.
Yeah, I don't see us scoring 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tries in a game.
That's Johnny or Wells. We puts a wonder
Not
pass
against
out.
decent opposition.
We don't
Yeah.
score.
Yeah,
I mean, even games when we've played, was it Hull at home, who was one of the poorest teams I've seen all season, we still only managed to scrape 34 points.
We nearly lost that game.
We should have had 60 points that night.
Yeah.
We should have obliterated them that night. And a few times this season that's happened. It's almost just enough. It reminds me of a team in America, Kansas, who tend to lower themselves to the opposition, and then if they need to go and score twice to win, they go and score twice to win.
Yeah.
But we should have been, but it's cost us because we need points difference in our competition.
yeah.
And it's cost us badly this
Well, we
year.
haven't,
Really
we haven't
bit us on
hammered
the
anybody
arse.
this year, have we?
We played too much without. There was. If you look at the weeks, it's probably only about a month when we had our first team together,
Yeah.
and then we won every week. When we actually stopped getting them banned, and we actually got some people fit as well. We won every week.
Well, there was a point
I
where
think we won 18
there's
on a row,
point
didn't
where
we, before
were-
Catalan?
There was a point where we were struggling, and I think it was in the run up to or just around the cup game that we'd won at Hull and then got hammered, and then we had the cup semi-final against Lee, and we lost that, and then we lost Wormsley for a good stretch, and Parsi out for the season, which on top of the other guys that were injured at the time and the
Knowles
injury
out.
and the bans we'd had at the time, it really set us back. But we went on winning, which was a puzzle. We managed to pull it together. I think we were just squeezing
scraping
past
through.
teams and scraping results, and I think the lack of Parsi for the rest of the season and Wormsley out for 8 weeks, I think, stopped us that.
We had
Stopped
enough
us-
to win.
stopped us getting
That team at
dominated.
the start of the year won the World Club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when we hit the semis, it was ironic, really. It was the same because it was the same. Joe Baxter didn't play in the World Club, and he was out. He was the only one out for the semi. So we had the team. I just think they were just too tired by then. I think they would. Maybe there'd been lads who'd been
But we
carrying it and stuff.
We're getting in the positions and we're creating the opportunities. We just couldn't finish.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I suppose
Short game's terrible.
we were getting into oppositions 20 and 30, and I don't know if you can. It's like in football, shots on target, shots off target. You know, but everything we did was off target.
Yeah.
We'd get there, we'd get in the positions, just couldn't finish.
We started doing that though. We started doing that 6 tackle. Get tackle as near to their line as you can instead of trying to score. We started that.
Or at least
Like
force a drop out.
Huddersfield did in that Challenge Cup final against Wigan.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
started doing that.
I saw England do that yesterday.
We're handing it over 2 yards from their line. No, actually, we didn't score. In fact,
Yeah.
we didn't even try to score. What are we doing? Is my view on that.
See, and then you've got like with a short kicking game is not just like in the opposition when you're attacking like that. Not just to try and force a drop out, but mistakes, little knock-ons, people dropping the ball. You put a short kicking game in and chase it. You're putting pressure on people to make mistakes, but it always like sort of petered out. on the line.
Our grubber to bomb ratio must be 9 to 1.
If we're outside the 20, if we're outside the 20, it's a bomb.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Inside the 20, you've got a chance of a grubber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only,
But it's not usually a good one.
Only a remote chance, and it's not usually a good one.
I haven't actually thought about that over the season. That business about finishing your set as near to their line as you can,
Yeah.
which is mad because we've often, how many tries have we scored on the last play?
Yeah,
in the
it's
past.
just not who we are.
Yeah, it's not.
I think we win the territory battle because we've got forward packer who can get us down the field.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to creating in that 20, we haven't got a clue.
That's what it looks like.
And then the lack, at least the lack of pace didn't affect us when we was creative in that last 20.
And asking us to
You
score
don't
from
need
inside
the
our own
pace.
half, forget it. Like there's no strike there.
It's just not going to. And you know what? In amongst all that as well, Lewis Dodd takes a lot of hammer from a lot of places. But I thought as the season went on, he got better and better.
He did, to
and
be
started
fair.
showing signs of what we know he can do. But then it's just not enough. It is just not enough. When we've got Jack Wellesby there, and it kills me that we know what he can do, Wellesby, and he can infuriate us. He can get an interception, he can drop a ball, he can drop a clanger, but he can win your games, consistently win your games.
I don't mind the odd risk though, because of what he gives you.
Yeah,
100%.
Oh, he's got lots of credit to play for the odd mistake, hasn't he?
And it's exciting.
It's exciting to watch it. Yeah.
Good
So you
to
take
watch.
the odd mistake.
Yeah, 100% you would, and he is. He's but we don't see enough of him. For me, I don't want to say he's wasted at full back, because we all watch Ben Barber at full back, and still the most exciting thing I've ever seen in a Saints shirt, Ben Barber. But then he was a freak of nature. Wasn't he?
Do we lose anything if he were moved to 6?
It depends who then would replace him at fullback.
Yeah.
But if he had a decent fullback, I think he'd be better at 6.
I think we've got a decent
Because
fullback.
he'd be more involved.
I think we've got a decent fullback. He's just got to play on the wing, because we've got no wingers.
Well, Bennison certainly on the defensive side, to me, looks like he can be fullback. Is he enough of a talented footballer to play in a modern fullback role?
That's what I worry about. Has he got the hands to play the modern fullback role? Because it's more of a pivot and a halfback now, isn't it, than it ever was.
Yeah.
So has he got those skills?
I don't know. Well, he hasn't had a chance, has he? So we're not really seeing that, I suppose.
You're probably right there, Steve. But I'd like to see us. I mean, let's not forget when Dodd missed a season, we had Johnny and Jack in the halves, and we won the lot.
Yeah.
We won it with Bennison at full back, because he doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
And Wellesby gives you that much going forward that I think it compensates for the lack of what your full-back can give you in attack, you know.
Just turning to that semi-final again, did we all get the feeling 10 minutes to go that we were going to blow this? Were you confident that we could hold out, or did you...
I thought after 15, 20 minutes of the second half...
Why are we holding out? Why don't we just go and win?
I thought it'd come down to a
It
drop
was like
goal.
that. I thought we was holding out and trying to hang on.
I thought it'd come down to a drop goal. I didn't think it would end the way it did.
No.
I thought it'd come down to a drop
Roy
goal.
the Rovers kept
because it was
trying.
6-6. But then, obviously, they'll run out to block the drop goal, and he sees them coming and just steps away from him and glides in. So,
I had
it's a bit of class, to be fair to him.
To be fair to him, yeah.
I had a problem with the with the tactics that cost us the penalties. I had a big problem with the line on thing that kept pushing us back to our own line, when in the first half they didn't get anywhere near our own line. We didn't need to do it. We just needed to carry on doing what we were doing. But the line on in the second half infuriated.
Do you think that was like, we were asking before about whether that was coached or
instructed,
or was it like a fatigue factor? They were, trying to give themselves time because they were knackered.
I wouldn't be able to answer that. Both are valid points. I would love to. I would initially say, well, it's obviously coached, but then I've never played a rugby match like that, and I don't know how you feel at that stage in a game like that. And it's not just this season. I sometimes have to remind myself that the pressure they've been under for 4.5 years, virtually 5 seasons of the most immense pressure that none of us could ever relate to, and they've come a couple of seconds away from doing it again. And I can't, as much as it does me head in, I can't criticise them too much, because
we're trying to dissect the season rather than point the finger and blame. We just say things have changed this year for us.
Fatigue might, and then that might come back to that high mileage team. The fatigue thing could be a great point there, Steve, to be fair.
And we don't have many youngsters in the team, do we?
Well, the age profile is something that worries me about this squad, because there must be 6 or 7 players who are over 30 now. I don't know what their contract situations are, but you're probably going to see most of them being moved on over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And the whole team's going to have to, half the team is going to need to be rebuilt, and that's a big job.
Yeah. And I think
big players as well.
Pardon?
Big players as well.
Yeah. And other teams are recruiting well, so we're going to have a period where we may not be the top dogs.
I mean, it's in a blink of an eye, you think Macon, Percival, Wormsley, they all played in the 2014 grand final that we won.
Yeah.
And we're still hinged on these players.
Lomax as well. Yeah.
That's like 9 or 10. Well, it's 10 years ago.
10 years
But they're the culture too.
It's 10 years ago.
They're the culture. So you feel as well, not only it doesn't look like Leeds, that it's not only the guys that's phasing out, but that culture's phasing out. It's so critical that we maintain that culture that we had, because if we lose that as well,
But what's happened with Leeds is they haven't brought replacements through. We need to make sure that we keep our youth
policy
production line paying dividends and getting us to where we are now. But I mean, that's difficult. It's easy to say and difficult to do. You don't always get a crop of youngsters that are as good as the ones we've had the last 5-10 years.
Well, worryingly, perhaps in the last 2 years, I can only think of Delaney. I don't count Dodd in this because I think he came through before that. There's only George Delaney, I think, coming through. That's
Benison, possibly. You might count him. Benison.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's a couple, but we'd want a few more.
The others have been around a bit longer.
But Benison's been around a couple of years. There's nobody apart from Delaney. There's nobody been blooded this year.
It's about are they good enough? Because there's also been Wingfield. There's also been Royal.
Yeah, but he got a new deal as well. Royal.
You're not going to win
go with other 48 second rowers.
I think Wingfield's good, isn't he? I mean, he's just injured at the moment.
He's been injured for a while. Yeah,
he's had a shoulder reconstruction, I think, hasn't he? Yeah.
We need to maybe keep bearing in mind the Walmsley and Bachelor route of being able to identify something that can be turned into a Super League player.
Good Championship players.
They've come from the Championship, haven't they?
Now, I think your mate Graham, Joe Bachelor, I mean, when he came back from his injury, from the very first moment he came back, we sat there, myself and Gaz, and said, he's not, even in the warm-up, he's not fit. Why the hell is he on the pitch? He's not fit. Because he is half the player he was before he did his hamstring or whatever it was. But what a loss.
What a player when he was
fit. And how long
fit.
did he last? It was about 5 minutes, wasn't it?
Not even that. It was the first chase. We made that break.
First break.
We made that break.
That game.
And he's tried supporting Makinson and it's gone.
We heard it in the stand.
But even in the warm-up,
he couldn't run. He couldn't move.
The week before he was half what he was, but he was that monumental before his injury.
He was such an integral part of the team from
it was huge,
18 months ago.
Huge.
I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet, Joe Bachelor, when he's fit.
Now we have got the likes of
see you next year. No,
he's
got Whitley in the mix as well.
He's the right side. He's the right side of 30 for us. Sam Royal got his new deal, but I think in a salary cap squad sport you need stocking fillers. You need somebody that can come in and not make people like Ben Davies.
Yeah,
that lad gets ripped apart.
Doesn't make many mistakes, does he?
Very rarely makes a mistake. He gets absolutely naff all praise when we win and gets blamed when we get beat.
You don't win out with them.
Yeah, but Gaz, you need to stop being so ignorant towards this thing, mate.
Well, you don't win out with them.
No, you don't. But it's a salary cap sport, and you need 30 players.
Wigan's got 30 players too, and
we've had it for the last 10 years, mate. You need to be realistic about it.
6 years, haven't they?
No, but there's a different. Yeah, I mean, if you get one of them in, you'll be all right. If you got 3 injuries, all 3 of them are playing, you're probably going to get beat.
If you can stop getting 4, 5, 6 of your first team squad suspended, then you don't need them.
I get that. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But and if there's only one in, you'll be all right with that.
In your squad,
but if there's all 3 of them names are playing on that same night, you've a chance of getting beat that night.
Well, you have a chance,
which is what happened. We went to Lee,
but
we got beat. We weren't good enough. Our squad ain't deep enough, and you're going to lose games with them guys if there's too many of them playing.
But if we're retaining the likes of Sirenen and Matautia and people like that, then the price you pay for that is you need Ben Davies, Sam Royal, these lower end players that all they do is just fill a gap when your superstars or when your first choice is out injured, and we need that, especially with an older squad. That these injuries that 3-4 years ago they'd recover from in 2 or 3 weeks are now taking 6 or 7 weeks, aren't they?
Well, we'll come to that in a step. We'll come to that in a few minutes. Just wanted to round off on that semi-final. I've got a little notice that says Sky. Now I was watching that, and the bias on the commentary was staggeringly worse than it's ever been. They were disappointed when Hopewati scored, and they were thrilled and delighted and cheering on Tompkins scoring the winner. And I'm just think this is horrendous. I don't know if any of you noticed it.
Yeah,
commentary. It was awful, particularly bad that night.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all.
Didn't you?
What I think is you've got a team there that's won 4 successive titles, and then you've got a chance of a new name on the trophy. You've got a team, Manchester United, when they were winning everything, everybody except Manchester United fans wanted the other team to win. I think we also get very a little bit precious about anything being said negative about Saints.
Yeah, maybe it's just me. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I'm still with you. They were shocking.
What I do dislike about Sky is just the level of commentary and punditry, full stop.
I was going to say, I think generally they are shocking, but I didn't notice it particularly more in that game.
No, I thought I didn't notice it at all, but they are a very poor set of. But
I don't think bias is their problem. I think they're just incompetent.
They just, 100%. And God knows what they're going to do next season, because they're going to need another 12 of them to fill all their matches.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
Because the first thing I do if I'm watching a game on Sky is try and pick up. Well, I don't try. I look for the local radio station online and listen to the radio commentary, because I can't stand the Sky commentators.
Time to give Parky a ring. He'll sort it out.
Parky's one.
There's an idea.
Who's the other one? Is it Matt?
Mark Wilson.
Mark Wilson.
Matt Newsom and Matt Wilson.
Mark Wilson.
Yeah.
Mark Wilson's very good, I must admit. But I'll tell you what, watch this space for next season. I know you mentioned Parky's name there, but you were saying that a lot of people are going to need a lot more, commentators, etc. So I'm sure his name will be in the mix somewhere.
Parky's great. Parky's a great.
I hope it is, 'cause
That'd be fab for him, wouldn't it?
Dave Parkinson is a great commentator, and he understands rugby league. He knows rugby league.
He's enthusiastic as well.
Yeah, he describes what's going on. They sometimes say, don't they, sort of like lean towards what a radio commentator does, but that bunch of clowns on the Sky set up at the minute is
Channel 4's knocked him out of the park for me in their presentation. So
excuse me ignorance, what's the girl's name? Sharon. She does the BBC on the Yorkshire matches.
I can't remember that name.
Sharon, so she's really good as well.
She does what?
She does a lot of the Yorkshire coverage.
A lot of Super League show stuff as well.
Yeah. So when the BBC are doing the Yorkshire matches, like on the Super League show, she's commentator.
Right, so I have to pay a bit of attention.
Can't remember the surname.
Sharon Shortle.
That's the
Shortle.
one.
Right,
yeah.
There's a commentator's name if ever there is one.
She's really good.
All right, let's just wrap this up a little bit. So Saints get knocked out, Catalans get through to the final. Wigan get a bye against Hull KR, 97-0 or whatever it was.
Harsh. But fair anyway.
Hey, wasn't I can't remember being so disappointed watching a game as I've
I've
been
beaten Wigan twice this year, and they just didn't turn up that game.
Well, that was just, oh my God, I just turned it off at half time. It was one of them, wasn't it? They just didn't turn up.
Although saying that, the other league game they played against each other, Wigan won at about 64-6, I think. So there's always
that's
that.
when they played the
There's always that
under-12,
potential
for the cup final.
for Wigan to blow them away, which is what ended up happening here.
Disappointing. I'll say no more than that. Which brings us to the.
When they win, Graham, it always is.
It got even worse next week. I was away in Spain hunting for a place to watch it, and was disappointed I got to watch it in the end. But Wigan 10, Catalans 2. I think this was about the most underwhelming grand final for a long time. What are your thoughts, chaps? Who's going to back me or
I
sack
think
me
we
on
have
that
got a
one?
serious problem in the sport generally when a game matters that much. Because I think, to take Gaz's point about saying earlier, teams are just scared to lose rather than going out there to win, and so they're just grinding,
Yeah.
arm wrestle, energy battle, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't see an open game, you just see forwards running at each other for 80 minutes until one falls over, and that's all you get. And it's not, I don't think it's a Wigan thing before our Wigan friends, start thinking of having to go at them. I thought what is now a memorable grand final win in 2020 when Jack Wellesby scored that miracle try in Hull at the end.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the worst games of rugby I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because it was
was
the
it?
same. It was just teams playing out the sets of six with no ambition. Defence is making every tackle because it's easy because you're just getting one pass off the ruck.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a real problem in terms of style when the stakes are high because teams are terrified to lose.
Yeah.
And I think that it probably needs some sort of legislation in the rules to open the game up. I don't know what the solution would be, but I think it's got to that point now where we need to adapt the game to make it more open.
Well, I think we tend to say we like to think with all the defence and how we're getting better and stronger that we're trying to match the NRL, but the NRL's gone on again this year. It's light years away. They've slowed the play. They've quickened the play the balls now, and they have a fast, open, free scoring game. They get loads of tries in their games, and we've seemed to have not kept pace with them. Are you still watching NRL, lads?
Yeah, every week.
Yeah, and I just think
I think you're right.
we are hammered down on defence, and the referees do try, but they don't do much about the play of the balls.
I think a lot of people have said on social media and whatnot, a lot of people have pointed out that it's because their ruck is cleaner.
Yeah.
And so you get a quicker play of the ball, and you get the defences slightly off the markers, whereas ours, the ball's being played, but there's still a defender holding on and all this sort of stuff. So, and the defence is like basically offside most of the time. They're just the ruck area and the offside is just policed.
So what do they do?
Differently.
What do they do to change that? What do we need to do to change that?
I don't know if we've got an unfixable problem of the fact that their prime athletes in their country want to play rugby league.
That's an issue. Yeah.
And all their prime athletes want to play rugby league. All their prime officials want to officiate rugby league. We haven't got the numbers to do that in this country. We just haven't. We're just not. I'm a prime sportsman.
Our best athletes are footballers.
100%. And a little thing that I've thought for a few years, I've mentioned it a few times, that I'd like to see us change in our game is I'd reduce the 10 to 5. To 5 metres.
Yep.
So it's not just, right, let's get your biggest player and ram him in as hard as you can.
Yep.
Let's create creativity. Let's necessitate creativity. Let's go away from because we followed the NRL mould of power, aggression, percentage rugby, which the NRL up until just COVID era was dull as ditch water, because that's what it was. It was percentage rugby. So now they've advanced to that, and us, as usual, will probably be 3, 4, 5 years behind them in that.
Yeah.
And it will probably come, but I think I'd like to see that rule change. I'd also like to see things like a contested scrum.
Yep.
Just because, again, it's another skill position that you would, because I think now, and I said this to Gaz, either the England match or whatever match we've been at, that when you look at a rugby league team, you can't tell if a player is a centre, a second rower, a prop forward, a hooker, a loose forward, because they're all the same identikit and they all do the same thing. How many times have we said Parky used to bounce on about there's no loose forward anymore, it's just another prop forward.
That's why they call them middles these days.
Middles.
And I just think we need, if we are going to, because I agree with Steve, I think the product itself has nosedived. It really has. Now, a few of us are massive fans of watching the amateur sport in rugby league because there's none of that pressure of we must win. So they just throw it about and attack. And I don't know if, going back to the Wigan side, because Matty Pete, and I'm sure Steele said, is so deep-rooted in the amateur game, that he's almost bringing that free-flowing, carefree, we've got great attacking players, let's use them to attack. Let's just attack. If you score 20, we'll score 30 kind of thing. Ian Millward, Justin Albrook sort of mentalities. But as the game, I think Steve's right, you watch that grand final and it's percentage rugby. It's dull. At that time of year, you hear a lot of the ex-Leeds players from those great Leeds teams saying they talk about the dew in the air because you get that evening coming into winter and the conditions are like you've not played in all season. All of a sudden everything's wet and slippery, and I think from the game we do need to do something fundamental to change it, because a lot of Super League games.
Do you think the 6 again
not entertaining
has slowed it down?
I think it needs to go, the 6 again rule.
I think the 6 again,
various reasons why, but
I think the 6 again rule on the first 2 tackles is just an instant penalty. It's ridiculous, Steve. It's a ridiculous rule. It is pointless. That needs getting rid of. There's a few little things like that. A point from the grand final, nothing to do with what goes on the pitch, but it's got to be moved from Old Trafford now, I think. My last few visits there in the last few years, we've got to know that stadium really well. It's an absolute dump.
It is.
The concourses are shocking. They're awful. The pitch itself, we have always said, but it is going to take for somebody to, God forbid, break the neck or something going down that slope. It's not fit, it's not suitable. The seats are all too close together.
Agreed.
Anfield's the same problem. I went there watching England, New Zealand. That's a dog hole of a place unless you're 5'3". It's awful. And then when you go to places like Man City or where you've got
Space, bit of space.
make the sport appealing to people.
Because that's newer, and those other grounds you mentioned, they're 100 odd years old.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be hosting events like that now at this stage.
No, and I
They're
think
past the best.
Yeah, and but I think the sport. I think you're right there, Steve. The sport has got a problem with its product first and foremost because there's too many matches that are not good to watch. I mean, Gaz gets infuriated at Saints because of this. What we've been brought up on all our life as in our DNA, as Gaz likes to say. Yeah. But I think Steve's right. The sport itself as a whole has got an issue.
But bearing that in mind, do you think, obviously the Challenge Cup we play at Wembley, do you think the grand final should go to somewhere like Tottenham?
I think
No.
Tottenham's a fantastic stadium, by the way.
Because
It's
there's nobody
amazing.
from London playing in it.
But shouldn't you take...
City's a bad call.
But shouldn't you
But
take...
London, I wouldn't want to go to a grand final.
Shouldn't you take your top competition down there? Why do we do it at the Challenge Cup then?
what is a
Because we
valid,
used to Challenge Cup at Wembley. That's tradition.
what is a valid point is I bet that if England played Tonga in London yesterday, there'd have been more than 12,000 people there.
If you play somewhere a bit bigger, in sense, then yeah, you're bang on.
What I would like to say, Steve, is that we've discussed this over the years about the Challenge Cup. We need to get it. I mean, we should just have first past the post, but then that's an old, oft-spoken thread. But I would move it around. I would go back to the Edinburgh, Cardiff, Manchester.
When we was on tour,
Manchester,
Twickenham.
Dublin, Twickenham. I would do that. I would move it around. We don't need to be that pressure. I agree with what... At one point, I didn't agree with Steve Orford's view on the Challenge Cup at Wembley. But I'm more along Steve Orford's line that keep the Challenge Cup at Wembley. Just, even though the stadium, we know it's far too big, but that's Rugby League's fault for not... The pricing of the tickets, the promotion, yada. But having things on tour, don't have them both stuck in the same stadium, especially on a stadium like Old Trafford. Move them around a little bit. Let's try and do something different with it. We can't afford to be that precious to say, oh, Old Trafford is our traditional home of the grand final. It's only
25 years old, though, isn't it, the grand final, so it's different to Wembley.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Which
thing
Challenge
at all.
Cup's like
But with
150 years old.
the thing with Wembley, whether my thoughts would be different, but for me, and I've been to a lot of these big stadiums, as you have, I think Wembley as a facility is true. I know the parking's abysmal, but as a stadium, it's superb.
Yeah.
It's
I like it, yeah.
magnificent.
Yeah.
Just on the final.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Wait for this for a comment.
Oh,
Here we go.
come on, Gas.
He's winding himself up here.
We
Do
have
you not,
bated
do you
breath
not,
here,
do
guys.
you not feel the right team won?
Oh, well.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
right.
of course,
100%, yeah.
yeah. In fact, I think I would go as far as to say that
On that
at the
note,
back
I'm
end of the
going home.
season,
He's having a lie down. He's going for a lie down.
They did deserve it, to be
from
fair.
the moment the playoffs started, I thought that Wigan were considerably better than the other two.
Of course they were.
In the top three.
The
Until
right-
the
the
way
right
they played
team won.
in the back end of this. They weren't better, I don't think, necessarily over the season, but at that point, when it really mattered, I thought they were a level above both Catalan and Saints.
Yeah.
And the Man of Steel, the right decision?
No,
Evan French? No?
I think on Wellesby.
Was he going Wellesby?
Yeah.
I'd probably say it was.
I think you're right about Wellesby there, because to stand out like he's done in a team with so many good players in it, we've always said that a team full of good players, you're never going to win a Man of Steel. But the fact that he's
Got nominated, anyway.
yeah, dream team, 3 years running in 3 different positions or whatever it is.
French will struggle next year because they've recruited like an all-star team for next year, so there's going to be a few contenders in their team.
I couldn't, whether it be Wellesby or French, I couldn't dispute either one of them, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that's Wigan scooping the pool. I've got a little note here, chaps, that end of the season I wanted to do a little highlights and lowlights. I've got mine written down. I'll come to you first, Adi. Highlight and a lowlight.
Goodness, on the
Because
spot.
while the other two are thinking,
Under the bus.
there's only one in there at the moment.
The low light semi-final
Yeah.
at Warrington.
Challenge Cup.
Challenge
Yeah,
Cup.
yeah, not just from the result, but I had up until that point I was quite keen, quite impressed, and quite fond, a secret admirer of Lee and everything about him. Now, I think Lee have become the most grubbiest, most dislikable set of supporters and club in Super League. I have absolutely...
That begs the question, do you have to be a bit grubby to be successful? Because if you listen to fans of opposition teams, they think we are a dirty mob and all.
It's not so much the stuff on the pitch that I've disliked with Lee, to be honest.
That's Derek, because he's
I was a fan of Derek.
Stain on the game.
I've kind of gone off Derek, and I've really gone off their supporters. You can certainly tell which is the more classy side of the Wigan postcode, put it that way.
That's saying something.
That's saying something.
If you're on the classy side of that
There's some
postcode,
stiff opposition there, isn't there?
Wait, I tell my friend from Skelmersdale like that.
Do you reckon a lot of them are new?
I reckon there are.
New fans are not great. Warrington's full of new fans.
Yeah, you're right there. I've never ever had a problem with Wigan fans, to be fair. They're rugby league people.
Yeah.
We have all been watching Saints Wigan games for donkey's years. I've never had any issues with Wigan fans, but they are very much Warrington-esque.
Well,
So
success,
new leopard shirts on, brand new.
unexpected success does bring about a new element of fan, doesn't it? You can get people interested who weren't previously.
Right, low lights, semi-final, highlights.
Sydney.
Yep.
By a million miles, as a Saints lifelong supporter, one of the highlights, full stop.
Especially in the context that Penrith went on to win it again.
Yeah. Gaz, your
The highlight is without doubt that game.
Yeah.
And the absolute highlight was the Lewis Dodd drop goal.
Do you know what?
Because my heart had gone. I was sunk.
Well, there's a lot of talk about Penrith not being too bothered, but you see their fans and their players when they equalised, they were bothered about that game.
They was bothered. Yeah. No illusion of that.
Yeah.
Wigan will find that out next year if they play them how bothered they were.
An obvious highlight, that drop goal, but for me it was that Sirenen to Wellesby, that try.
Oh, that try.
Because that was just like, we went there and we played our rugby. And we turned up in Sydney and we played our rugby really well, and that's what and it was so good to see. We hit him hard, and when Cyril went through and give it to Wellesby and he's got his hand in the air going under the sticks, lashing it down the rain, it was just that little moment was absolute heaven for me.
So yeah.
Low light for you. Give us the low light then.
Where do you begin? I don't know. Probably the Catalan game. And the way we played it.
Yeah.
The way we played it. I don't think we went to win.
Steve, your thoughts?
Well, to be honest, there's not a lot of choice in terms of highlights because we are a bit underwhelmed. It shows how spoiled we are, doesn't it? We're underwhelmed by losing 2 semi-finals and winning a World Club Challenge, but you'd have to go with the World Club Challenge, I think, for your highlight. Low light, I think I'm tempted to say that the way we approached it tactically and the lack of what we've been discussing about lack of creativity and guiding the team, but if I had to pick one moment, I couldn't look past the Tompkins try at the end in that semi-final. I think that was it's a complete dagger to lose a game. At that point in the game, we got a minute left in the manner we did. It's the sort of thing that we've done to other teams so many times over the years, and it doesn't taste so good when you get your own medicine back at you, do.
Yeah, that was a pretty low point. Mine for what it's worth. I agree with the Penrith trip. That was fantastic. The build up to it, where they were saying, you're chicken out, you won't come. There was all that, there was all the arguments about, well, you come over here, you want money, they want guaranteed money. Well, we'll come over. All right, we'll come over there then. We put a lot of effort into that. Went and had a couple of warm up games, did well, and then beat them in their own midden. That was tremendous. Low light for me was getting hammered by Hull. That was my low point of the season. That was everything else you can say. Oh, well, we could have, we should have, we could have. This we were inches away, seconds away. But that game, we got battered, and it didn't look like we
cost us as well.
It cost us.
If you think about the points difference again, we were saying before, to lose by 28 points,
30, it was 30, wasn't it?
So that.
He was a player, wasn't he, Jake Clifford?
Well, he turned up that day, doesn't?
I'm not surprised. He's gone back to the NRL.
Yeah, excellent player.
If somebody could have stole from another club, we had that discussion the other day, didn't we? But if he was still here, it'd be him.
Yeah. Okay. So on balance and in fairness, while we're disappointed, not that bad. Not a disgraceful season as such. But
I'd have took it before the season started, and with the way things developed in that 4, 5, 6 weeks after Sydney, bloody good effort to every single one of them. Damn fine effort. shit happens.
Yeah, that's a fair comment.
I think there's a lot of teams who would swap places with us.
Yeah.
For what we've achieved this season. But having won 4 in a row before, there's always going to be a bit of a disappointment at not getting that fifth one, which would have been
because we could,
which would have been unprecedented.
Yeah, we could have done it.
We could have.
We cost ourselves.
Yeah.
We never really got going, did we? We was always thinking next week we're going to get going. Next week, I think we had a little patch of about a month when they were all
when
fit.
Matty Smith was
coaching, and everybody was fit, and we smoked Wigan in that period.
We smoked everybody.
Yeah, we were really hot in that period, and then the injuries came back again, and then somebody else banned again, and suddenly we're clunky again, and you're like, oh, if we can just, and it was only like the semi when we finally got back to that, and it was too late then to just suddenly just switch it on, I think.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, did it? So it was one of them. The frustrating thing is, could we have won it? Of course we could have won it. We've come third on goal difference when we've been awful all year.
Yeah.
You know, we win one more game and we're top. You know that. So they're not. It's not like they're miles better than us. Catalan's beast us in bloody. The whistle's gone. So there's nothing between us and them. Next year they're decimated. I don't think they're going to be a completely different proposition, and I guess not as good next year.
Is it still a bit disappointing that there are the 3 teams have effectively run away with it?
No, for the league it is. Not for us, but for the league it is, yeah.
I think you'll find next would be fascinating to see what happens next year under the Sam Burgess regime. I'd be begging Brother Tom to come with me.
I predict more of the same, but we'll see.
I think Warrington need a psychiatrist more than need a coach. They've got a mental block.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to come as a great coach, but he might bring a few players with him because of the name that he's got.
He's got contracts to play with, hasn't he?
And he can't do any worse than last bunch of clowns.
I think Warrington and Leeds have. I mean, it is the same 3 teams again, but they're the only teams that were worthy of it. Yeah. And we weren't really worthy of it. Let's be honest, it reminded me a lot of 2014. We finished top in 2014, God knows how. We were awful, we were crippled with injuries. I think we had 5 fullbacks. Wasn't that the season of
5 fullbacks, yeah.
Quinlan and
Adam Quinlan.
Well, what was the other guy? The guy who came from Hull. And he was Shannon McDonald.
Yeah.
And then we won the grand final, which we shouldn't have won, with Flannery playing scrum half and a 34-year-old fullback playing standoff. I mean, and this season kind of reminded me of that. But the difference this season is there was a really good team in Wigan that when they switched it on, can blow anybody apart. And if it wasn't for that really good team in Wigan and a fluke for Catalan, then we could have won it, but we wouldn't have deserved it, I don't think.
We had the edge in the pack. If we'd have made that grand final, our pack was better than their pack. But
would it have made
in the backs, my God, they were miles better than us in the backs.
And do you know what makes me skin crawl really badly is that Wardle, Kieran, and Walters have all been free signings. And they're 3 positions. They're centre and proper positions. That you think, what? We could do with some fresh blood in there.
Don't get me on Wardle.
And they're like, I mean, Gaz. Honest to God, for 3-4 years, he's been banging on about Jake Wardle. Why the hell is he still at Huddersfield? Why have we not? Every time we played Huddersfield, he ripped us a new one.
Didn't he get the Harry Sunderland and all?
I think he did.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like,
funny you should say that. Let's have a look at our squad. As we know that. This year was James Roby's last year. LMS has ridden off into the sunset to start putting out fires, apparently. Half a dozen or so of the youngsters have been let go, and we've recruited a couple of lads that we know of so far, in Matt Whitley and Darryl Clark, and we've given T. Ritson a 2-year deal. Let's just have a look at this and going forwards and see what we need, what's going forward, where are we up to? Are we happy with those 2 signings at the moment? Because I don't class Ritson as a signing, because he's been here a year.
We needed a hooker anyway, didn't we? Because of Roby's retirement.
And Pemberton's been let go.
And there isn't an obvious
Lussick went
backup after Lussick left as well. Norman By's been playing there, but I don't think he's a natural hooker necessarily. So we need to recruit someone. My only question mark with Clark would be his age now. I think he's wrong side of 30.
Another 30.
He's 29.
28, 29.
Is he?
Really?
Oh, right. I thought he was older
Still
than that.
doing it, Clark.
But I think he'll be right for at least 2 or 3 seasons anyway. So in the short term, I think that's a pretty good signing. Whitley is a good player in his own right, and there's no argument there. I just think we don't need a back rower, so why are we bringing more back rowers in? We've already got 7 or 8.
You have to wonder if he was signed that long ago, was it because we saw Sione was going back?
That's what Gaz was saying before. It's a possibility.
We've kind of got him we've bought him and thought.
So I do like him. I think he'll do well if he gets enough game time.
Well, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
But I just think we've got too many players in that position, and that the squad looks unbalanced from that point of view. Ritson, I can't get my head round. Wellens has seemingly, lost faith in him. He hasn't picked him since August, and now suddenly he's got a 2-year deal. A lot of people on social media have been telling me that, it's okay, he's good backup, but there's no evidence I've seen so far that he is going to be backup. We've only got him and Benison for that position now that Opawati's not going to be around anymore. Percival can sort of fill in there as well at times, but if he's your number one choice and we don't sign another winger, I think it's pretty ordinary bit of business. As a backup on, modest money, whatever it is, might work, but I don't understand it because he's not picked in for 3 months.
It's a puzzle, that.
We just said Darryl Clark is 30.
30, right.
There you go.
So you're looking at 2-3 seasons max, I think, out of him.
Yeah.
Unless he does a roving because obviously he's 37, but few players do that.
Yeah.
2 or 3 will do right now, though, and in fairness, there's not many better than him in the league. And when we went to Warrington, every time we've played Warrington this year, he's terrorised us.
He scored against us
last couple of years.
Terrorised us.
Yeah.
He's done it
This
since they
season-
beat us at Wembley.
Yeah.
Since they beat us at Wembley, he has ripped us a new one every time we've played him.
And he's still flying from dummy half as well. He did it.
I think he'll do well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Clark's,
no,
I'm happy with
no,
that.
no,
My only
I
concern
think-
is injuries with him. Hopefully he stays injury free.
Well, I think Clark is a magnificent signing, and I think he's going to be in a much better setup with us than what he's had to do with Warrington. There's a lot of Warrington fans really unhappy that he's gone.
Really?
Yeah, and I know, as you know, I know a lot of Warrington fans, and a majority of them are saying that he's been the best player for the last 3 years. They are furious he's gone. And I think with the pack, we talk about we've got too many forwards, but with that pack around him, I'm hoping that even at 30, because maybe that is the sort of steadying that we need.
Bit more experience to bring in.
And his quality is pure quality. Whitley, then, I can see the dynamics of our pack changing. I did enjoy seeing the mobility and the aggression of Morgan Knowles and Matty Lees as your starting props, and James Bell at 13. So another good forward. I can't say I'm against the signing of Whitley. T. Ritson has shown me absolutely nothing. And then when people say, I think a lot of fans seem to forget he's like 27, 28. He's not a kid.
No, he's not a kid, but
he's not a kid. Unless he's on I don't know, 15 grand a year in a kebab from Gino's. then maybe so, but
He should get a desk job if he is.
we've seen him.
Still get Geno's.
We've seen Darnell McIntosh chase him down. We've seen various others chase him and catch him when he's been in the clear, and we've seen him fail to catch others who have broke. I think one time he played Salford and they skinned him alive inside out. He was playing outside Hull, I think, and did you talk about a recipe for disaster there? Now, like we've often said, that if your game is based on pace, then you've got to have a lot of it. And I don't think he's got as much as everybody would like to think. Like Steve said, he's a championship pace, not Super League pace. I mean, you're gonna be getting the likes of Joe Batchelor that could probably give him a run for his money. But
The hamstring holes, he could.
well, yeah, I don't, like I say, I don't even think it was. I think we're wasting our time with it. To be
I'm
honest,
going to go against the grain here a little bit. I think, like most players who are going either stepping up from the Championship or coming in from abroad, if they've not played top level abroad, it takes them a year to get used to things.
that is a fair point.
And I think I'd give him longer before I binned him off, to be honest. I'll certainly give him another season.
He hasn't had a lot of help in terms of the centre on that side. Hasn't been up to much most of the year. As
He has got better.
been discussing, but I do agree with you. I think even when he's had the chance, he's not shown it.
Yeah, he's got a bit better than when he first came into the team. He was a defensive nightmare, and you can see that he's had a bit of coaching into his defensive positioning and things like that.
And I did speak to him in the summer, and he was saying that the big thing for him was he was spending all his time being coached in defence. And that may have affected him a little bit. I don't know, but I'd like to give him another season before I could pass judgment on him.
That's a fair call. Sam Royal, stocking filler.
So what do we need?
Rower.
Yeah, another back row.
Why?
Yeah.
I think Ritson, to be fair, if on the argument of you need someone lower salaries, you need a backup. He's a good third choice.
See, and the problem is though we get into that territory now. We're going to need to rely on those backups more and more in that position. I'd love to see us sign a winger. But
I was going to say, what do we need then? What do we want? You've got
pace.
We need a centre. We need a winger.
Centre, winger. I know you mentioned Burton before, but I'd be tempted to buy a fullback as well, and then a prop.
See, I think because I mean Tommy Makison's never had lights out speed, but he's a great all round player, and I think for that reason, I would be comfortable with Benison staying on the wing and us signing a top class fullback to put Jack in the middle, or sign a top class winger and I'd be comfortable. I'm comfortable with Benison wherever he plays.
He doesn't let you down, does he?
No, and he's not got lights out pace, but Tommy Makinson never has, and Paul Wellens never did. But what Benison has got is an all-round game that those two. But I don't for a minute think I'm comparing him to either Makinson or Wellens, not at all. But he's an all-round player. But I think just pace, whether it be centre, fullback, winger, whatever. When it comes to recruitment, we just need out-and-out pace.
Do we think our recruitment's done yet? Or do you...
Hopefully not.
Hope not.
Because as I said, we need those other pieces. I think you get those pieces. It then makes having Benison on the wing a little more manageable, because you don't need. I'm not saying every player in the back line has to be lightning fast. You just need 2 or 3 who are going to cause hesitancy in defences, and that will open up the gaps for the players who aren't maybe so quick.
Well, I think always the question with pace is it holds the opposition defence up, doesn't it?
There's a new dynamic in the transfer market, I think, and that's Leeds buying 2 players, Croft and Ackers. Leeds spending 300 grand. That's not been around for a long time, that. And that's back. It takes me back to us buying Newlove, to us buying Schoolthorpe.
That's 30, is that 30 years ago?
That's so long ago it was, but it's so long.
But if you pair Croft with Frawley, you might have a problem.
It's not that. But my point is that there's you got Wigan with a new owner who are just spending for fun. I know. In fact, to be fair, I take your point. They picked a few up for free. Well, they've not picked Luke Thompson up for free, and they've just won it, and they've added 6 players already, and all 6 of them look good. One of which we was meant to be getting. It's pretty frightening. So if we don't anywhere near compete on the transfer market, we're looking at taking a step backwards.
Are we guilty, Gaz? Are we guilty of, and I know there's some fantastic prospects, especially wingers, but are we guilty of milking the same cow that is our academy too much? Because we've had this over-reliance on it that has worked dividends for us over the years, but you do occasionally need to spend some money, and we never ever spend. And I know all the clubs are losing money, but like you say with Leeds, but they have got a huge salary cap space. But I mean, whether we as a club have got money to spend or not, this is where the new Wigan owner and the Leeds owners are going to be putting their hands in the pockets to bolster the squad.
They're going in a new direction, Wigan are. The Wigan have always brought the lads through, and especially under Matty Peet as well, which is you find a bit strange. They brought the lads through. This time they bought 6 players in
to supplement them.
They brought 6
I don't
players
think
in.
it's about pounds for cents, because the cap is the cap. If you're spending it or you're not. And as I understand it, we are spending it, so we can afford to compete that way if we want to. But
you need to spend it right.
As in a transfer fee situation.
Well, you don't get many of them anyway in the game these days. But anyway, so
I don't like that.
We should be, and we should be in a, and I don't know, but I can't understand why we wouldn't be in a strong financial position.
No.
Well, I guess I'm being told we're not, but I don't know why we're not. We've got our own ground. Put some more gigs on in summer. You know what? Open the club shop on match day. Open the bar on match day. You know what I mean? What are we doing? I I can accept that we're not in it. If you're telling me we're not, I accept we're not because I don't know. What I can't accept is why we're not, because we should be.
Didn't they have another £1 million loss again this year?
Well, don't forget this year they've not got to a grand final, they've not got to a Challenge Cup.
Yeah, but we've just won 4 on a row. It's a bit tame.
But if you've invested that money already, that's gone, hasn't it? In that respect.
We should be the most financially stable club in Super League, and I remember Eamon talking about that. And if we're not, what's happened? What's happened?
Bringing academy players through has been working for a number of years. I think
it has.
If it ain't broke, sort of thing. But if it stops working, then we might have a problem. If the next crop of youngsters are not at the right level, and we're forced to spend, then we're going to see. I think.
Yeah, you see, I'd like to think that they know much better than we do, sat here around the table. But because, as was pointed out earlier, that there hasn't been as many come through as we've been used to. Now, whether that's just because
at the standard we need,
the next batch is waiting to come through.
But you've got a few in there that have come through the academy, but it was 10 years ago, likes of Merkerton and the Lomax and Robbie even longer than that.
I mean, we're still reaping the benefits. We've still got Wellesby, we've got
Thompson, we've got
Wellesby, Noel,
the original
Benison,
Percival, Dodd.
So it's still there. But whether we just need to supplement, I mean, but there again, we've supplemented it with Matauti and Sirinen, and nobody can say they haven't been a success, because James Bell's been a great success.
No, I'm thinking about next year.
But speed, I think, is
if we go in with what we've got on the table so far, Daz Clark, Matt Whitley and T. Ritz and Sam Royal, we're not going to compete with Wigan.
Let's just throw. So with
and I don't mind. You know what? I don't actually mind if we say, well, the plan next year is we can't compete with that. Our plan is 2-3 years time. Then we're going to do this. I'm like, okay.
But if you was to throw in,
it's not all about winning.
If you was to throw in, just for the sake of rumour mongering, shall we say? Let's say you was to say, right, well, you'll get a big fast winger, and who's unsettled, who's always, let's say Harry Newman, for example. So let's just say by the start of next season we end up with
a big fast winger, and maybe an unsettled centre from Leeds who's out of contract in 12 months. Say maybe we'd got him on a 12-month loan deal or something. So let's say somebody like
out of contract, Leeds, unsettled.
Well, yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Well, there you go. So then I think if you was to put that, then that adds a totally different.
That's a game changer.
And then that would make sense of stockpiling the forwards, because we've got some forwards that are getting leggy, you know. I mean, Big Al, I mean, what a servant he's been for us. He has been unbelievable for us. But he is well into his 30s, and he plays a rough, tough
You can't plan
position
for more than half a year.
Would you think about moving him on now?
No.
But
he's not going to play more than half a season. He'll be injured.
I'd tell you what, I would look at whatever he earns, and I would sooner lose him a year early than a year late. If he's earning big dollars, I mean, none of us know. No one's got a clue how much Saints players earn. No. It's all just guesswork, isn't it? But the people that matter obviously know, as in Eamon and Mike Rush. And
maybe the position is that they've thought we're too reliant on certain players, even though we've got this great squad.
Walmsley being one for me.
We're still too reliant on
He's
certain
the top
players.
meter maker nearly every week, Alex Walmsley.
And we need to broaden the squad. If that happens, that would be fantastic.
I think the only one I could even think would go along the lines of Alex Walmsley would have been Sam Walters. And look where he's gone. Because of his sheer physicality and size.
He's aggressive, isn't he? Yeah.
There's an edge to him, though, that Walmsley doesn't have.
Well, that is.
I think he will cause himself problems at times.
Maybe so. But the one thing is, the people that run Saints haven't let us down, have they?
No, you can't argue with that.
But I'd love to see, like you say, if there was I can't remember one of the guys' names from Australia. Then you heard about this Wacker Blake being mentioned. Anybody of that ilk, size, speed and power. And, for example, a Harry Newman, if he was to become available.
Yeah.
If, say, as a fast winger, somebody like a Matty Ashton was to become available.
Yeah.
But that,
Imagine the noise in Warrington if we got Clark in the same season.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But just then that gives it a whole new dynamic, and the season is only 2 weeks over.
Yeah.
The fact that we're going to have done their business early doors,
Well,
and
credit
we
to them,
haven't.
yeah.
Have they finished? They've been done to sign one today.
But as you've just said,
Got any more
Gaz,
cap space?
I suspect their accountants are having a lie down at the moment.
well, as Gaz said, maybe Wigan have put all this in place last year.
Possibly.
When they seen us win 4 on the bounce,
Yeah.
maybe Wigan, this new billionaire who's took them over, said, not happening this.
Yeah.
No, not if they win it again and get 5 out, so be it. But they will not win 6 on the bounce. And they've just pipped us at the post to win it this year, because what they've done, there's no way all this recruitment, this superb recruitment they've done, has suddenly happened in half a season. There's so much planning must have
Yeah.
gone into that.
There's a lot goes into to buying or bringing in players.
They look very strong, but it's different looking strong and being
And
strong,
being
innit?
strong, yeah.
So we'll see how it goes when they do look strong.
Yeah,
They're losing Smithies
Warrington-
and Piers Pauls. I think Piers Paul was a player.
Somebody's bought Smithies.
Smithies going to Canberra.
Canberra,
Yeah.
Really?
Canberra Raiders, yeah.
Blimey.
Wigan, NRL, innit? Canberra.
You see now,
Oh, okay, fair
now
enough.
when you look at
Might start
Warrington,
watching again.
He'll not be missed.
Warrington do all the buying and recruiting, but don't know what to do with it. But I think in Matty Pete, they've got somebody who really
he's a
knows.
worry.
Matty Pete looks like the best decision they made in a number
Doesn't
of
it
years.
just?
Warrington just recruit famous people for bums on seats.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the gutsiest, ballsiest decisions by Radlinski to put Matty Pete in there.
Yeah.
And wow.
Is
What a
Matty
job.
Pete there, Holbrook? Because he's certainly got the same similar
the
feel
worry is
to
he's
it.
beyond that because he's from Wigan.
Yeah.
He's Wigan through and through. So you're not
He's not very
from-
charismatic, I would say.
No, but I think
No,
the team
but he's
love him.
he's that inclusive guy, isn't he?
The team and the people love him. I
Yeah.
think it would be similar if we had done this season what Wigan have done. It would be like we are for Welham. It would have been like he's the town, he's the people, he's.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which, when you look at the 2 signings that are confirmed for us, you've got one who is a self-confessed lifelong Saints fan, who was at Saints as a junior,
Yeah.
and then you've got Daz Clark, who's lived next door to Shirley Park for the last 10 years. He lives virtually facing Shirley Park.
He's cycling to work, is he then?
Do you know? So it's like you say, it's like the people who are local to us.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Talking of Wello, my last point for tonight is a review of his first season. Don't know if you've ever. I've always thought it was going to be tough for him because I think Wolf left at the time Wolf suited Wolfie to leave, and I suspect that Wolfie knew there were major changes about to come.
That's right.
And
Be careful.
he's always up against the problem of what happened with Kieran Cunningham, and he's got that to contend with. He's got an aging team to contend with, 4-time winners to try and win a 5th. Didn't come far wrong. Didn't miss out by much. Won the World Club in the first 6 months. Well, I'm not quite sure when he took over, but first 4 months, wasn't it? 4 or 5 months on his own. School report, pretty good year.
For all the complaints of attacking style and this, that and the other, I think given the injuries and suspensions, I think he's been absolutely magnificent. I think the way he's conducted himself, the way his demeanour, his humility, both in success and defeat, I think he's been superb. I just feel for him in the sense of, like you say, the timing of it with the age of the squad and the transitions. If he'd have kept either the fitness or the suspensions this year, we would have won the lot.
Yeah.
And then we'd have been talking about the greatest coaching masterstroke ever in the history of rugby league, because we would have won the lot, but we couldn't keep the team on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason and the amount of changes he's been through, and the way early in the season when we were getting beat and we were down in 8th position, I think the way that guy held himself together and the way he spoke after every game was an absolute credit. So I think personally he's been magnificent. I really do.
Steve, your thoughts on the first season, mixed bag?
Well, I think he's made mistakes. It's the first thing to say. I mean, if he knew he was going to get that job when the recruitment for this year was taking players. I think he didn't get that right. We didn't strengthen the areas that we've been talking about particularly well. I think he got some of his tactical approach wrong, was too predictable. We're not, expansive enough, as we've been discussing all night. But I do think we've been close, haven't we? We got within points difference of a home semi-final, and then within a couple of points of a Challenge Cup final, and then a last gasp try in the playoff semi-final. So it could have gone, as you said, Eddie, another way. All those games could have gone either way, and we could have been looking at a different scenario. Gaz made a point earlier about how we may have to strap ourselves in, if you like, for a bit of a lean period if we're going to recruit over a number of years, and try to refresh the squad as those older players get older. I worry about if that's the case, because I don't think he'll get the time. I think if he fails again, if we have a trophy this season again next year, I don't think the club necessarily would panic, but this fan base is not particularly forgiving, as we saw with Kieran Cunningham. Boring rugby and no trophies equals the sack, even if you're a club legend. So that's my worry. That's my worry for him, is that we don't improve style-wise and we don't start winning trophies again. I think he'll be out. So I think next year is a huge year for him.
Cass?
It's not too dissimilar, really. I'm Wellow through and through. I've been campaigning for Wellow for coach from 10 years ago. I think he's the right. I don't think there's any similarity between Paul Wellens and Kieran, apart from they both played for Saints as people. But I think next year he's got to be more creative, and I think what I didn't like what I saw at Catalan at all, the way we went about the game, the way and I know I keep going on about why we didn't play Connie. I refuse to accept. We should have played Connie. We should have gone to win. And the second half, like Aid says, we didn't even try to win. So I think we've got to be more creative. It might be we shouldn't be talking about Wello. We might be talking about assistants, not Wello. Wello's fine, and culturally, Wello's what we need, because the dads went out and did. Could you say they didn't try for him? No, not in any week.
Never in doubt.
Not in any week did they not give 100% for him, and they always will give 100% for that guy. But maybe we need changes at the next layer down, because we've not been creative this year. We've not been pretty to watch, and we do need to change that. And he might need to have to make some bold decisions, because if we start Jack at 1 and Dodd at 7 and Johnny at 6, is that going to change? I think what will change, actually, I think Clark will put some spark into that attack, because he will go from
I agree with that.
He will go. He'll pick it up and he will go.
We've not even
he'll scatter a few defenders and give us a bit more.
So
space to play.
So we just need. Wellens. You never ever got Wellens, but we need a bit more creativity for sure, and he needs to make that happen.
Have we briefly? Personally, I think we may have missed a trick when I see that Danny Maguire's gone from OKR to be assistant at Castleford.
Has he really? I didn't know that.
That really surprises me, because OKR are so attacking and so entertaining, and Danny Maguire, as much as I hated him when he was in Leeds, but you can't deny what he was as a player and as an attacking mind, and he had a lot to do with that at OKR.
Record try scorer.
Did we maybe miss a little trick on the coaching side of things that somebody like Danny Maguire's ended up with respect to Castleford? Well, no, it's Castleford. Assistant at Castleford.
One of the worst Castleford teams currently I've seen in years.
Yeah. I don't know.
Steve, your thoughts on Weller's first season?
From my point of view, it's his first season. Any other club would have been over the moon with what he's done, wouldn't they? At the end of the day, he's come in, he's gone over to Australia, he's won, against one of the best teams in the world. They've gone over there and won that competition, 2 semi-finals. Can't argue with that. I agree with what the lads were saying about there's some bits and bobs during the season where you think through gritted teeth you thought you've got that wrong. But I'm with Gaz here. For me, and I'll say it straight, I think Lauren Fresnel should go. He's brought nothing, and Matty Smith for the minimum should be there next season, I think. But yeah, I agree about what you were saying about what do you call it from OKR?
Danny Maguire.
Yeah, and I think you need somebody like that who knows the Super League from a playing point of view. And Matty Smith knows how to control games. I mean, he wasn't the most exciting player, but
he won 2 grand finals, didn't he?
I know. I remember watching him absolutely kick Warrington to death because he was that type of guy, could control it. Much the same as Maguire, was always there on somebody's shoulder to score a try. And you need that type of person there.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, I'm behind him. I think I agree with the comments the lads have made. I think it's a big difference between being an assistant, being an assistant to being a head honcho, because the buck stops with him. And I think if he sits back over the next couple of months and looks back on the season, he can see where he's made mistakes and perhaps
it'll be
make some changes. It'll hurt
as
him
much
more
as it's
than
hurting
us.
anybody.
I think it's hurting him more than it hurts
Probably
us.
more.
Yeah.
Probably more than all of us.
It really will. But and then, like you've just said, it's his first season in the biggest job
the hot seat
in this side of the planet in rugby league. It's the biggest job.
His interview after the Catalan game was like watching Mikey Lewis yesterday afternoon. Did you see that Wellens interview after the game? He was struggling. Yeah. He was struggling to hold it together. That's how much it matters to him, and that's why we need to. That's why we need him as our coach, because he lives and breathes and dies.
I agree with what Steve says. As long as there's no glaring faux pas and no glaring things he's doing wrong, like we suppose we did have, unfortunately, with our last homegrown coach. But we've got to stick. He's got to be supported, but financially supported
that's
as
the
well.
Other risk.
Yeah, that's important.
It's all right saying Matty Pete's great and this, that, and the other, but he's been back to the hilt financially.
Yep.
So let's support him, and I think he'll probably get that from Eamon and Rushy. I'd like to think so.
He's to be fair, he's a lot of credit in the bank, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think though it was the fans that put pressure on the hierarchy to get rid of Kieran Cunningham, wasn't it? I don't think they would necessarily have done that, but the atmosphere was toxic towards the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, but our fans are shocking, aren't they?
That's what I mean, but
elements of our fans.
If it goes that way again, they'll do it again.
Of course,
there's a fickle element. I'm sure. I think. I mean, it's a first season as a full term report. It just could do a bit better, but not much more than that.
I think, unfortunately, a lot of the fickle fans are of the social media generation. There's a few names, and I'm sure we all know one name in particular who I despise because of his comments about our club and who he thinks he is, and I think he's only he's some sort of snotty-nosed kid, and I think we all know who I'm on about. But that drives hatred towards
on social media,
unwarranted hatred on a ridiculous level towards a club from people that know naff all about the workings. They don't know any more about the ins and outs of that club than we do sat here. And yet when you see the drivel that they spout and push on social media, and you think, guys are crucified before they've even had a chance. And I agree with Steve there. We've got an element of that about our fan base.
Sure we have. But,
we'll have any youngster who's like 20 or early 20s even. All they've seen is
they won't know about losing.
That's all they've seen.
You need to come and talk to me about the 1980s.
Yeah. 70s, 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Right, well, thank you very much, chaps. I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight and our monthly podcasts. Thanks very much to AD, host Sullivan.
Enjoyed it, Graham. Yes, we recharge, and as they say, we go again.
Next year. Steve Orford, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Graham. Pleasure as always.
Cass Tinsley.
Cheers, Graham.
And many thanks, of course, to Steve Beach on the buttons, who without Steve we wouldn't be recording any of this. That's for sure. Thanks very much, Steve. And good night to everyone. Thank you. Good night.